I mean, that's what we want to do, man, is we're trying to drag these people along to build wealth. It might be in multifamily, it might be in storage, it might be in flex space, and we can bring them along for the ride.
Welcome to the Going Long Podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And I'm your host, Billy KEELS, and I am really looking forward to sharing today's conversation with you because it's full of energy, excitement, as well as insight. And you're really going to enjoy today's conversation. And listen, just before we get there, a couple of things that I do want to share. The podcast continues to move up the charts, and that's thanks largely in part because you continue to leave your honest written reviews as well as ratings, as well as downloading the podcast and taking the content from the podcast and putting into action. But if you happen to be one of those few people who has not yet left an honest written review or rating, we made it super simple for you. You can even follow a little video there for the podcast, for the Apple Podcast platform, and it will show you exactly what you need to do to leave your honest written review as well as rating. And so feel free to let us know the things that you like about the show and also things that you'd like to see us do more of or things that you'd like to see us change. I'm constantly watching, reading, and acting on the reviews that we get. So if you haven't had a chance, just go ahead and leave an honest written review as well as rating. It's something we'd really, really appreciate. And speaking of podcasts, I know a lot of you are like, hey, listen, there were some podcasts that were in the very beginning and I can't seem to find them on my platform. And maybe it's a little bit concerning for you. Well, listen, we've got an easy solution. You can go find every single episode for every single podcast. Just go to billykeels.com. Once you get there, go to the podcast tab and you can find every single podcast that guest who's ever been here on the Going Long Podcast. Once again, just go to billykeels.com. Once you're there, go to the podcast tab and you can find every single episode. You can find the video versions, the audio versions. And you know what? There's also even a lot of other resources that you can find there on the website. So feel free to do that. And then lastly, for those of you who are interested in connecting with other accredited investors, finding out about different opportunities open for accredited investors, be great to connect with you. And if you want to, just send me an email, send it to aiclub@billykeels.com. That way I'll respond to you. We can get connected and you can find out more about this accredited investors club that we're just getting started. So it's very grassroots, right? And we're just getting started. It's a great chance to get in early and connect with other accredited investors, especially those of us that have an interest in long distance investing. Once again, just send me an email to aiclub@billykeels.com and we'll get connected and go ahead from there. So also today, you're going to get a chance to learn from someone who has started their career, has really been involved in many different facets of the real estate space, not only just having a roofing company, but learning from there, getting involved with the investing directly and being an active investor in rental properties and single family rental properties. Realized that was, just kind of not really the thing that a lot of the wealthy people that they were hanging around with were doing. And so decided to really learn more from the wealthy people that he was hanging out with, decided to get more educated, decided to take more action, started to begin to network with other people and even become part of masterminds. So, and he has a very unique understanding and insight to what happens with long distance investors, a lot of the unique opportunities that investing long distance presents. And he's actually just not saying that, but he's actually doing that. So he's going to tell you about a story nowadays where he's investing many states away. And I know that you're going to get a lot out of today's conversation with Charlie Wessel, and we're going to get to that right after this. Whether you're an active investor or a passive investor, you really like your day job and you want to continue to go into your day job every single day feeling better, knowing that you've created the right options for yourself. At the same time, you just don't have enough time to really get your head around, spend all the hours investing long distance. Well, one way or the other, over the last number of years that I have been investing long distance, I've really understood a number of the major mistakes that you should avoid if you want to get to creating the right options for yourself much faster and being able to create more income sooner. And if you want to do that, if you want to understand more about that, I've made it really, really simple. You can just go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. You can learn all the things that the 7 major mistakes that I've seen over and over again that I want you to avoid. Once again, you can go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. If you'd like to know how having a focus on education, taking action, as well as effective networking can help to lead to your long distance investing success, then guess what? Today's conversation is the one that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Because today's guest, not only started in the commercial real estate, multifamily space, and it got started there in 2006. He's also been an active investor in alternative assets since 2016. He is the founder of Cordell Capital. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Charlie Wessel. Charlie, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Billy. Good to be here, man. Good to talk with you.
Hey, man, I am looking forward to this conversation. I loved our pre-conversation, love your energy, love your know-how, experience, knowledge, and I am sure that the entire Going Long family is going to learn so much from you today. So as you know, Charlie, we like to ask, I like to ask, I guess is probably a better way to say it, 5 questions. You're going to get the same 5 questions that every single guest in the Going Long podcast gets. You're going to get 2 in the beginning, you're going to get 3 in the end, and then in the middle, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to ask you, but I'm pretty sure it's going to help the Going Long family. So with that stated, help us understand, where do you actually live in the United States, Charlie?
We live in Charleston, South Carolina, down here, one of the most beautiful places on the earth.
Yes, it is. It is a very, very beautiful place, and it can tend to be pretty nice weather as well, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. It gets hotter than Hades in the summer, but we don't mind it. We don't mind it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's something that you definitely are happy about once it's like September through March, because it's not freezing cold all the time. So with that started, also too, I'd love for you to share with us, Charlie, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
In the last 24 hours, we have broke through with several investors. We've had a deal out there for a while, and several investors reached out that I really wasn't expecting these guys to reach out. But so that was, new investors. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, I tend to like that. New investors, new experiences for them, because they tend to go out and want to let other investors know that they had a positive experience with you and your team. So yes, so appreciate you sharing with that. And also congratulations on being able to have new investors as part of your Cordell Capital family. So with that stated, and everybody here at the Going Long family knows I give myself this impossible task of like trying to tell your backstory and your entire backstory in 30 seconds or less, 3 seconds. And so I know that I wasn't able to do it justice because you've got an amazing backstory. So I would love for you to share with the entire Going Long family, if you would, Charlie, your backstory in your own words. And the one thing that I would ask you to do is if you could also take just a moment as you're telling your backstory to highlight some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey. And then after that, we'll kind of see where you and I take the conversation.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Well, I've always been an entrepreneur ever since I got out of high school, and even in high school some. But so I've been in construction and started a construction company here in Charleston when we moved here in 2006. And it went really well. I mean, we blew it up like gangbusters. Even during the during the big recession, we still did really well. And I just always knew that I had to work for myself. And we, grew that company to a size and bought some rental homes and grew it to a size to where it was, I could get out of it and make some pretty good money. So I did. I sold it in 2016, and we started another roofing company at that point. And I knew at that point that with the rental houses that we had, that I didn't want to scale that. I didn't want to continue with that. But I knew that everybody that I worked for in the industry was all the wealthy people that I worked for were all in commercial real estate. So I just went digging. Yeah, I went digging as hard as I could into the world of commercial real estate and talked to several commercial broker buddies of mine here in Charleston. And they all said at the time, go get into multifamily. That was the way to go. So we did. I took about a year and a half just to study as much as I could and to really, I went to Michael Blanc conferences and some of the other conferences out there and just read up as much as I could on everything. And it kind of got us where we're at today.
So that's fantastic, man. So there's a couple of different things. So you knew that you didn't want to be a part of the corporate game. You knew that about yourself. So having that wherewithal, number one, I think is very, very important. A lot of times people will be like, "Hey, I'm going to try this," and then they're like, "This doesn't work for me," right? And so I think that's fantastic. But then one of the other things that you mentioned is that you didn't want to just keep going with the rental properties that you had. So a lot of times people are like, well, rental properties, man, that's I want to get into that. What was it about not wanting to continue with the rental properties that you had that was kind of causing you some doubt?
Well, they were all here locally in Charleston. And so anytime anything would go wrong, the property manager would call us, and, we owned a construction company and they knew that. And so they were like, oh, they can just fix, they'll run right over and fix it and this, that, and the other. And, one time I got a call from one of the property managers that a neighbor had called her and let her know that there were legs hanging out of the front door of one of our houses. And, I was like, call the police. Don't call me. I don't want anything to do with it. So this is your problem, not mine. So that really sparked, when we were decided to get out, we knew we had to take a right and we had to go somewhere else at that point.
Got it. And so and for those of you, if you weren't watching the video version, I'm going to recommend that you go over and check out the video version, because he was just sharing that story. Like there's a little smile. It's kind of a jest, laughing. But the reason that there was that little laugh from me is because I've actually kind of been there. So you know what it's like. And it's, Charlie, I appreciate you like sharing that, because a lot of times people just want to tell like all the good stuff about being involved in rental real estate. But it can happen like when you're getting the call saying like they want you to deal with something, you're like, well, that's not how I thought it should work, but that is actually how it is working. And so when that happens to you and that compounds over and over and over, it drives you to want to make different decisions. And that led to you wanting to say, okay, well, let me find out about what these other really wealthy people are doing and find out more about commercial real estate. So it helps us understand a little bit more about how you got into the commercial real estate space. But I also want to just kind of maybe really quickly ask the question, because this is kind of the whole point of the Going Long podcast, right? Is understanding that, and I take it to an extreme, man. Like I realize that I take it to an extreme because there are so many different great opportunities out there. But I live in Barcelona, Spain, and I invest exclusively, as of today at least, back in the United States. And all of the books tend to say, hey, listen, invest in this property, be a landlord, keep in your backyard, and you can go see the property every single day and all that kind of stuff. I fundamentally believe that you do not have to do it that way. You can do it that way, but you don't have to do it that way. And I also know that as you have expanded beyond just the single family residences, as you start to get more education, you start to take more action, that the long distance investing thesis is something that you have also put into practice, right? Different degrees. But man, that's going against like popular culture to not invest in your backyard. So why in the world, Charlie, did you ever even consider investing beyond your backyard?
I mean, I fundamentally think it's the worst idea in the world to invest in your backyard. I mean, you're going to ride by those properties all the time, look at them. It's like watching your stock portfolio online, just having it up on a separate monitor all the time. That would drive you crazy, So yeah, no, our closest property is 2 hours from us right now. And we're in a deal right now in Des Moines, Iowa. I mean, I don't think it gets much further away from Charleston, South Carolina. I don't plan on investing in California, so it doesn't get a whole lot further away from me. But I mean, it's, I don't know, like the whole single family thing, investing in your backyard, buying a single family house. One of our houses, the HVAC went out in the house. Well, it was an older home. We still bought nice houses. Like we didn't have, $40,000 houses here. These were nice houses, but it was an older home. So we decided to replace the HVAC unit. And of course, all the ductwork and stuff had mold and stuff in it. So we replaced all that. There goes your entire year's worth of income for that house. Our 152 unit apartment complex, if I hear about an HVAC unit going out, something's terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. Like, because they just go fix it. and of course we get our P&L every month. So we see what's spent and where, but I don't get a phone call saying, oh, the HVAC's out. And then I have to go meet them there and do all this, that, and the other, I don't know. This is just so much more scalable. And, to be able to scale it outside of your backyard, like in Des Moines, Iowa, which is a place that's exploding right now. I mean, it's blowing up. And there's good deals out there in these areas that aren't down the street. And we have the capabilities of reaching out there. I mean, our partner on that deal, FTW, they're in Kansas City. Yep. So they're out there. I don't have to be out there,
Yeah. So, you've hit on so many things. And what I want to bring the Going Long family to your attention, first of all, is you just finished by talking about the new opportunities. But when you start thinking about investing beyond your backyard, you gave us a very great visual description, and I could actually feel it. Is like it would be like watching your stock ticker with a huge screen every day, all day. And this is more about, at least the way that I felt it, was how do you gain more quality of life, right? And being able to invest in an asset that is an asset that's not a $5,000 house or something like that. It is an asset that should be working, but the fact that you do not have to see it every single day actually means that your heart is not going, like your heart rate going up, your heart rate going down, or you're worried about this or you're worried about that you have a better quality of life. That's the way that I read. Then you also talked about some of the new opportunities that exist, like new geographic opportunities, location opportunities, financial opportunities, but you didn't lead with that. You kind of finished with that. And I think that's really important for the Going Long family to understand that, feel that it's not always just about the money that leads forward. It's about being able to have a peace of mind as well. Is there anything you want to add on that, Charlie?
Yeah, man. There's a great big world out there with opportunities. The opportunities here in Charleston are very limited. It's limited to how many opportunities there are here. And, the rest of the United States is open for play, Well, to me, we don't look at deals outside the U.S., but to us, the U.S. is our playground. That's our sandbox.
Well, it's a pretty large playground. So if you got to pick one, that's a pretty good one to pick, especially when you realize that there are so many inefficiencies that exist within that real estate space. And the fact that it is not a homogenous type of a marketplace that allows those teams that are moving most effectively to recognize where they're inefficient and be able to positively take advantage of those inefficiencies, which I think is another thing that I absolutely love about investing in new type of alternative assets, or specifically if we're talking about here in the real estate space. Do you want to add on something there too?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay. I didn't. I wasn't sure if you were or not. So listen, one of the other things then too, also, because you made this switch, you realized that you didn't want to go there. You started recognizing things that were happening with some of the different actions that wealthier people were taking. You started understanding more about the commercial real estate space. Then you took even further action. You started investing in your education and also networking. So maybe if you could talk to us about, because maybe sometimes they're high paid professionals today and they're like, hey man, look, I'm making a lot of money. I don't really need to do this. But what was what was it that really helped you from a foundational perspective, from the education that you were able to take in, that allowed you to feel more comfortable to then take action?
Well, it was, it was going to the events. I don't know if there's a lot of events in Barcelona, Spain, where you're at there, Billy, but
not real estate events, but
we have the unique opportunity here in the States that we get to go to a lot of different conferences and events and network. And I'll be honest with you, I get more out of those. They're worth more. The networking is worth more to me than anybody on stage. I haven't seen a stage yet that was worth more than the networking that goes on there. And I've met my partner. I've met partners there that we partnered together in deals. Actually, I've met every single partner I have at one of those networking events. So
Charlie, talk us through a little bit of like what does that mean? Like, because I know sometimes we'll ask, but if you've had the chance, like you're taking action over and over and over. But what does that look like when you go through, you're at an event and eventually over kind of like timeframes that you get a chance to know one another. And eventually you're like, hey, listen, this is somebody that I would like to partner in this specific way with. Maybe if you'd feel comfortable talking us through kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the first partners that I came in with, I met them at a Michael Blanc conference. That was the first conference I went to. I think it was in 2018 or late 17 or early 18, up in Washington, D.C., and met with these guys, and they had a place they were trying to buy in Georgia. And so actually at that time, they didn't even have that place. They had about 15 other properties, and I was just kind of really impressed by their portfolio. So I went back to another event, I'd say probably 6 months later, and they were there, and we had some drinks and hung out and, did that kind of thing. And they were like, hey, do you want to come check out our property and see if you want to raise some capital and team up on it? And I said, sure. So we did that deal. We've done 2 deals together so far. I'm also a member of a mastermind group, and the contacts in that are damn near invaluable. I mean, there is so many deals and so much money going on in that mastermind. It is just insane. And I don't know if I'm mentioning it or not, but I got Hunter Thompson's Raise Masters. It's an amazing mastermind. But I'm doing deals with people that I've met in there and that I've known for the past year now and followed them, meet up with them over Zoom quite often. I mean, I have Zoom calls all the time with other sponsors from Raise Masters, as well as from other, just outside of Raise Masters. But I found all the guys that I do deals with just from networking and finding guys that you click with, Yeah.
And this is the thing that is really important for us to recognize. It's because and it goes back to the basis of the question was really, understanding you took action, you networked, and then as a result, you continue to take action. And then you are building relationships, and you're doing it in a way that's very natural, right? Initially, you meet somebody, you hang out. It's, hey, and we're going to go have a lunch, or should we have lunch? Okay, cool. That great conversation. So later, should we have a drink before dinner? Yep, you do that. You have dinner. You have great conversation. Then you find yourself talking the next day. Over time, you're eventually on a couple Zooms, and then maybe you're part of a different group, your masterminds, or you're at another event, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess the thing to understand is that it's not rocket science. It's really about making sure that as you have these opportunities that you've created for yourself, you then are building relationships with people, genuine relationships. There are people I'm sure that you met that you don't really feel like you gelled with. So you just you don't hang out with them anymore. But then other people, not only are you building a relationship, you're also now able to talk about things, ideate. And then from that, you can actually then start to say, hey, look, would it make sense that you do this on a deal, I do that on the deal, and that we bring all of our different investor pool together. So I love that example. I appreciate you taking us kind of through that step by step. And here we're okay with mentioning other of our peers in the space. Actually, Hunter's been on the show, so a big fan of Hunter's.
Yeah, he's sharp.
Yeah, very very sharp guy. Wow, don't you just love this conversation? This is amazing. This is fantastic. And so just really quickly, I just wanted to remind you, for those of you that are looking to create more options for yourself, get there faster, and do that with long distance investing, make sure that you go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid so that you can avoid all those mistakes, get to your goals faster and sooner. Once again, that's billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. Now back to the conversation. So speaking of which, man, you've spent some time, and I know this is one of the things that you also enjoyed doing. Talk to us about how you actually went then from the multifamily or the commercial real estate space, then moving and pivoting a little bit more into an area which is capital raising, and kind of what was it that made you say, hang on a second, I'm doing this, and this capital raising thing seems pretty cool. I want to learn more about it.
I'm an extremely social person, Billy.
I would have never guessed that, Charlie.
Yeah, I know. I like bourbon. I like golf. I like hunting. I like fishing. I'm a very active person when it comes to going out and acquiring more and more hobbies. It drives my wife crazy, but we have guns and boats and fishing poles. And I mean, we live 5 doors down from the tee box at Stone Oak Ferry Golf Course in Charleston. So we're
very active,
very active. And I was like, you know what? This is the part that I like doing. I mean, brokers, God bless them, I don't want to deal with them. Property managers, I don't mind dealing with them. I mean, I like the business part of it, but I don't have to deal with them that often now. I mean, I still like to have the calls with the property managers, once a quarter or something, but I'm not the asset manager. So I don't need to be all over them every month. I can have that once a quarter conversation with them and just make sure that I'm checking off all my boxes for my investors that we're looking for, and making sure that the asset manager who we're teamed up with is doing their job as well. So I enjoy the business aspect of it. I enjoy the social aspect of it. I do not like underwriting deals. I don't like going out and finding them. We did that for 2 years, made it to the best and final, and several of them was awarded one, and it fell apart in due diligence because there was so much wrong with it. And I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. I can let somebody else do this. So,
so what I'm hearing you say also too, is, I mean, you have a very high level of self-awareness, right? You even talked about it in the very beginning that you realized that you didn't want to do the corporate thing. And so you knew that you wanted to go out and do your own thing. And so it's the same way now as you start realizing this whole, you recognize yourself, you understand that you're a very social being. You understand also too, I'm sure, as you're part of more and more masterminds, like really what is this whole capital raising thing about? And right. And just what it feels like to me, or what I hear you saying, is also too, within the constructs of a team, you have found the space within your team where you can add value and be your best self using all of your skills and talents to help the overall team. Would that be accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. No, that's that sounds great. And that's also too, because one of the things, as I know a lot of people sometimes are, a lot of really, really high paid professionals are kind of like, I've been doing this thing forever, but I feel like I could be doing something else. And so it's just a matter of being able to use your time effectively, recognize, really what it is that you want to be doing, what skill set you possess. And then if there is a team that you can be a part of, you can add value, and you can, it won't feel like work because you're doing stuff that you genuinely like doing anyway.
Right.
So here's the thing. So you said you don't really like being the asset manager. You don't really like underwriting deals. And so I know that you happen to have your business continues to grow. Mm-hmm. Now, because you have this high sense of self-awareness, I'm wondering if there are any kind of secrets that have helped your business to begin to grow and be able to attract more and more investors. And if so, what would that be?
I think being genuine with them, and yes, we do the email blasts and this, that, and the other, which I really hate that part of our business, but I mean, it's necessary, I mean, you have to be able to reach people, but I do enjoy having, a genuine relationship with these investors, and that's where it grows. That's where you really get the investors from. I mean, yeah, I've gotten a couple of people that have called me up or, shot me an email or something, and I've never even met them, and they want to invest. And that's totally fine. Look, come on, people. Yeah, we love it. Come on with it. But I really enjoy building that relationship with my investor team, even if they're long distance. If it's on the phone or via Zoom call or something, we try to reach out to our people and, just live life with them. I mean, that's what we want to do, man, is we're trying to drag these people along to build wealth. And, it might be in multifamily, it might be in storage, it might be in flex space, it might be in, any kind of asset that we can find that we're underwriting and making sure it's a good deal, and we can bring them along for the ride, and we can all make some good money and have a good time and go traveling and do stupid stuff together,
and live the best life, man, which is great. So Absolutely. My question, so here's my question. So you keep saying me and then we, and then, I know that you said you don't like writing the emails. So are you actually writing the emails that keep you in touch with your investor base or new people that you're meeting at these conferences and stuff?
Billy, that's one of the dark questions of the industry. Of course, I'm not.
You're
But
not. So how do you get all this stuff done, man?
yeah, no, we have a virtual assistant that does that. Like if somebody reaches out to me, I'll take her email and then I'll type a personalized message at the top to them because I'm trying to reach out to them.
Yeah.
But no, when we send out emails about deals and stuff like that, I mean, that would just take an enormous amount of time and effort. And I have a virtual assistant. We use Active Campaign. So we have automations that are set up that I say she sets all this up. She sets up the automations. I mean, she usually types out the email, sends it to me. I'll do the editing and change it around a little bit, but I have no idea how to paste all those cool pictures on there and make it look all super cool. So she does all that, sends it to me. I do the editing. And then as soon as somebody opens an email or clicks on a link in an email, I mean, then they're going to, they go into another queue to receive another email, maybe a day or two later. I don't like getting another email as soon as I click on something because I don't like that. So we try to tee it up for maybe a day or two later.
So I guess one of the things what it sounds like once again is that, as you recognize what you do best, you've then reached out to say, okay, if we want to scale, then it's about bringing other members of the team on board. And so virtual assistant, we are definitely work with virtual assistants because there's only 24 hours in the day and the entire Going Long family wants to get consistent content from us. They want to hear the conversation that you and I are having. And if they had to wait for me to do that, they probably would never, ever, ever get it. And so that is, once again, you're helping us just recognize that your high level of awareness of what you do best. You're not probably best to do the active campaign stuff, but you do want to make sure that you're maintaining that relationship with people that you've met before, making it personalized, and also making it consistent, which I think is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So one last thing, I guess, because pretty soon we're going to have to get into our Going Long final three. But as you continue to go out and raise capital and you're looking for operators, one thing that I think would be interesting also too is how do you go, as you're building these relationships, how do you know when it's the right relationship with an operator that's going to be able to consistently deliver for your investors, and kind of how do you recognize that? And then what due diligence will you typically go through to ensure that you have the best probability of a positive outcome?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we look at, track record says a lot. Past performance is not indicative of future outcomes, but still it tells a lot. It tells a lot of the story. So, I mean, we look at all their deals, see where they're at. I want to, get a most recent P&L, for the year on each deal. That way we can look at it and see how they're running it, see how it's going as far as their projected and their actuals. And then I don't do I'm not calling a lawyer to do a background check on these guys. I'm from South Carolina, man. It's gut feeling, but we have a lot of contracts, but also shake a lot of hands. And I mean, you hit your knees at night and pray about it. And the Lord, he puts good people in your path, man. So it's been a good run. It's been a good run with the sponsors we have so far. And I mean, we just continue to meet really good people, really good, solid people. And I mean, I got a pretty good gut feeling about people. I know, my investors don't want to hear that I, bank their money on gut feelings, which I do not, absolutely. But that plays a big part in it. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. And so, Charlie, so one of the things that it's interesting, because as we're having this conversation, and everyone has different skill set and everyone has different strengths. And so in this pretty consistent in this conversation, right, that you have a high level of emotional intelligence, of self-awareness. And so what someone may be perceiving as a gut check that doesn't have that as one of their superpowers, let's say, they probably wouldn't be able to, because the gut check for that person, probably it's checking for other things. Whereas your gut check, based on the experience that you have, the self-awareness that you have, being able to probably go in and read a room. And this is something that's very consistent with behavior types. And we won't go into that today. That's a whole different thing. I want everybody to understand the context of that, of your response. The gut check for you, I'm sure, has a lot more checks in it, if you will. And it's based on a lot more meeting with certain people in certain places, certain contexts. And so if you are more of a person that doesn't have a lot of experience with gut check, and you need your spreadsheets and you need your lawyers to call, you have to take the approach that's best for you, so that at the end of the day, and this is one of the things I speak to a lot of people about, you have to make sure that your ROS is positive. And the ROS, once again, is the return on sleep. So if you're not comfortable with the gut check, then don't do it, because you're not going to sleep well. I don't care what the return is. I don't care how great the relationship sounds like it's going to be. You have to be able to sleep well. I don't sleep very much at night, but the very little sleep that I do,
I don't either.
I sleep very, very well. Those few hours.
I do as well. I do sleep well. I get a lot of deep sleep, but I wake up super early in the morning, go work out with a bunch of guys every morning. So
That's it. So listen, Charlie, we got to get into the going long final three, man. I cannot believe how fast this conversation has gone. It's just flown by. Sure. So the thing is though, Charlie, there's kind of one rule though. I don't ever ask anybody to go along final three unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you. So are you ready?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
You were born ready is what feeling I have. So here we go. First of the going along final three, but question number 3 is we started with you over in Charleston, South Carolina. I'd like to bring it back over to this side of the pond, if you don't mind, and have us, or if you'd share with us, what is your favorite European city that you have either visited yourself or is still on your bucket list to visit?
So I'm a big golf fan. So I would have to say Fife, Scotland is where I want to go. St. Andrews, home of golf, birthplace of golf.
Yeah, man.
And you know what? We had a 2-week trip planned the year COVID hit for that summer that we were, and me and my kids, my parents, my brothers and their kids, we were all we rented out castles and stuff. And
wow.
So we were going to Ireland for a week and Scotland for a week, and it all got canceled. And it was it was a very expensive trip, and we had prepaid for most of it. And luckily, I think I lost about $50 on the whole deal. So
that's not bad. That's
not bad. But we are looking to redo that trip here within the next year or two.
Awesome. So let us, let me know if you're back over this way. And Barcelona's actually kind of a cool place too, but we'll go with Scotland. So we're good to go. We're good to go, man. Here's the other thing. So I've been very fortunate. I've met a lot of very, very successful people. I also consider you to be a very successful person as well, Charlie. And so one of the things that I have noticed with successful people is that the really successful people, they typically are they get to be very successful because they don't make any of the mistakes, and they get there much faster than. I get all flushed. I think I get nervous when I get right before I ask that question. No, it's kind of a joke. It's an inside joke for me and the Going Long family. It's an inside joke. It's an inside joke. It's an inside joke. So no, here's the reality, right? The reality is they're successful people. They make mistakes like everybody else. The thing is, they make a whole lot more mistakes than most people. But the thing is, what I've recognized, Charlie, is that they do one thing very, very differently. And this is true. This is no joke. They tend to stop, learn a lesson from the mistake. And then from that lesson, they put different tactics in place to minimize the probability of that same mistake happening again. So what I would love for you to share with the Going Long family, I don't want you to share the mistake. I don't want you to share, or if you call it a learning opportunity, I don't want you to share that. But I really want you to share, what is the one lesson that you learned from that story that you know that the Going Long family needs to hear today, so that they can minimize the probability of that exact same mistake happening to them? What is that one lesson?
Keep trucking on. Keep going. Keep going. 2 years underwriting deals and not getting one, Billy. I've been successful at almost everything I've ever done. I really have. Because I'm a grinder. I get in there and we're going to get this done. We're going to do it. 2 years without a deal, that was kicking me in the pants really hard. But I just, we kept going. And finally we got, we had to step back and refocus on what we were doing. And at that point, we were like, we're going to raise capital. So anyways, long story short, just keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
And I'm never quitting. I'm going to do this until, the day I decide not to. But this is what I'm doing.
All right. Awesome. So love that. So keep on going, keep trucking, keep moving forward. Appreciate that. And then this is the third of the Going Long final 3. And it's really about helping us to feed our brains, Charlie, and then wrap it up. What is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Great book. Finished it a couple months back. And it's been such a crazy past couple of months. I haven't even picked up a new book yet. I got a couple of them on my nightstand that I need to start, but I haven't done it yet.
Who Not How is awesome. Who Not How is awesome. And it is one that impacts people, and it helps so many of us that are trying to figure out how do we be the expert in everything. I would just remember the first question should not be, how do you do it? It's who is the right person that is going to best do it. So, which is awesome, man. So I'm thinking, we're going back to the very beginning of the conversation. You recognize that, corporate thing wasn't for you. You got started. I know we talked about this a bit. You recognize where your strengths were. You started your own companies, roofing, got into that, started renting real estate, realized that, hey, listen, there's probably a better way to do this because, as you said, when you're buying in your backyard, you tend to be like constantly watching the stock market and what's happening with the stocks that you're investing in. And so if you're looking for a better quality of life, which you started then recognizing that there were other wealthy people that were doing things differently. You found out more about the commercial real estate space. You got into multifamily investing. You started taking classes online, and you then took it from getting education online to meeting people in person. From there, even deepening relationships, going into masterminds, continuing to surround yourself with the right people, getting more and more focus. And then today, even thinking about how do you build your business to a way where you're helping investors that can effectively invest beyond their backyard and do that with confidence. I mean, you even gave us a specific example of things that are happening now with an asset that you have in Iowa, and even talked about at the very beginning, having new investors on board. So I know that I'm going to get a chance to talk to you again. And I know that so many people in the Going Long family that are running on the treadmill or cooking dinner or whatever, they're like, man, I got to get in touch with this Charlie guy. He's awesome. I want to find out more about what he's doing in Charleston and other places. So help us understand, what's the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you and also what you got going on at Cordell Capital?
You can reach us on LinkedIn. We have a pretty big LinkedIn presence. Facebook, we got a Facebook group, a mastermind group on Facebook, as well as just Cordell Capital, Cordell Capital.com. All right. And they can find out more on how to reach us there.
All right. Fantastic. So everybody, Going Long family, I know you all get tired of me saying this all over and over, and you already know what I'm going to say. But when you reach out to Charlie, just make sure that you are letting him know that you heard the two of us speak here on the Going Long podcast, because it's going to make it such an easy conversation for the two of you to continue, because Charlie will remember exactly what we were talking about, and it's going to just help the conversation, building a relationship, and all that other stuff. Before you know it, you'll probably be hanging out with Charlie doing fishing or hunting or something like that. Really cool anyway. So, so make sure you do that. We're going to include the Cordell Capital in the show notes and be able to connect with Charlie in a bunch of different other ways. So, listen, Charlie, I just want to say thank you very much, man. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you investing your time, your energy, your experience with me and the entire Going Long family, man. Thank you very much.
Billy, thank you so much, man. This was a lot of fun.
All right, man. Been a pleasure. And just really a couple quick words for the Going Long family. Charlie, Going Long family, listen, appreciate you investing your time with Charlie and I. I know that you loved his energy, his expertise, his stories, and also take the chance to reach out and connect with him as well. So until the very next conversation, I'm really, really looking forward to welcoming you back here. So go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.